Sam Taylor, and I'm here to tell you some honest things about 3D printers. 3D printers are amazing. You've seen enough videos about that. I want to talk about the types of problems that you have when you use a 3D printer. So, well, I guess to start with, you need to understand where the technology's come from. It's open source, and it's been put together by a very large group of different people that have all bounced off each other in such random ways that to really say that any 3D printer is perfect is impossible. We haven't yet reached the stage where it's like a microwave oven and it's, you know, you press 10 seconds and you press a button and it comes out warm. It's not that simple. You've got so many parameters that are going on. You've got a hot end. Let's start at the hot end. That's hot. The temperature has got to be the right temperature for the plastic that's running through it. That's something that takes time to work out for each different coloured plastic if you want to get each plastic to print perfect. You can get general settings that will work for most plastics, but some at one end are going to look crappy for one reason, and then at the other end others are going to look crappy for a different reason. And you're going to have a pretty wide range in the middle that works. So you can, generally speaking, set your plastic to the temperature that's supposed to work for it, and it will work. But there's going to be ones that don't work unless you send settings to some kind of extreme one way or the other, whether it's warmer or cooler or whatever. So that's your hot end. Then you can see how much room for error there is just with the temperature. Then you've got things like fan speed, which also affects the way that the plastic melts onto the other plastic that it's laying it down on. Then you've got all kinds of issues that can go on with your motion. I'm not going to go into them in detail, but certain reasons can cause things to get stuck, and it buggers up your whole print when it does. If something gets, even if it's only for a moment, even if it's only the tiniest little it can stuff your whole print up. So, you know, there's that. Then there's things like how easily can the filament get into the hot end. So you can see there I've actually got that sitting off the spool holder because the spool has just fell off twice. So I took it off on purpose, but I just want to demonstrate. That's one type of thing that can go wrong. Something as simple as a little knot in your filament from where you haven't been careful when you're handling this filament spool and it gets a knot in it. That can cause all sorts of problems that you might not notice straight away. What else can go wrong? Things like wiring and stuff. It's all moving parts, you know. There's a lot that you can do to improve the situation aftermarket, and there's a lot of community 3D printable mods for printers that will make things better. So it's very much, that leads me on, I guess, to say, I mean, that's probably enough on the types of things that can go wrong. You've got an idea that a lot can physically go wrong, and that ties in with what I'm about to say about the community, and it's back to that community-based thing where everybody's helping each other to design and build these machines. And so there's a big, strong community about, you know, repairs, upgrades, modifications, ways that you can do things differently. And if you're not the sort of person that's prepared to get in and tinker, it's really hard to recommend 3D printing to you, even with an expensive machine that's supposedly going to have all these features that make it easy. Because in reality, you still need to know how to learn how to identify the problems that go wrong, and then be able to do a little bit of research in the community forums, mostly on Facebook pages, either specific to the printer or specific to the slicer or the, you know, whatever. It's a, you know, a thing where you've really got to get into the community. It might be the circuit board that's in it that you need to research. So you need to go into the group for that board, and you know there's a fair bit of researching involved when things go wrong, and one problem can present itself as another. So it's diagnosing it is not simple, and it's, if you do have problems, take some good clear photos and send them to a community group for the printer that you've got. Send them to me, send them to anyone else that you know that knows anything about 3D printing. Say, what do I ask for? What do I search for? You know, expect a few grumpy bums to say that you should use the search function. Just ignore those retards, because they either just instinctively know how to research or haven't had the problems that you've had yet. And usually you'll find those same people will turn around and do the same thing that they've just upped you for doing anyway. So don't ever worry about them. Just ask your questions. take the stuff that's coming at you with a grain of salt, because a lot of people have had one problem and think that their solution that fixes their problem is going to fix everyone else's problem. So you try and weed out the people that sound like they've got less printers. If someone's got more than one printer, it can generally be a sign that they've been doing more printing, and depending on whether someone uses their printer once a week or if they use it every day, whether they slice things that are easy to print and they're happy with that, or whether they get in and do more complicated things with their printer, and whether they work on their own printer or not when they break down. And don't take everyone saying, oh, you've got to do this and you've got to do that and buy this and buy that, because quite often all those upgrades are actually going to make things harder to diagnose, and you're going to have a lot of trouble when you've got a unique machine and only a small handful of people know how to deal with problems with that particular hot end setup or with that particular circuit board, or so there's a lot of people suggesting straight away out of the box upgrade the hell out of your printer. I don't think that's the case. I think there is a few things that you can safely do to your printer out of the box that aren't going to cause any problems, but again, it depends on your level of expertise. Things like 3D print yourself a fancy cap for your aluminium extrusion instead of the standard plastic one, and have a bit of fun. Fan upgrades that don't involve any firmware and hardware changes, not firmware and software changes and slicing changes. You can do things like put a printed part that prints on both sides, so it blows the fan on both sides, that even uses the same fan. That's a good way to start just getting into it. Or look at getting something that's easily undoable, easily reversible if you feel that it's not not helpful. A lot of people go and say to do things like take the springs out and harden out your bed and put a automatic touch probe on the printer and be done with it and let it automatically fix itself. Well, I don't think that's necessarily the best option either, unless you really want to go that way. It's certainly not harmful, but for a beginner that's getting into 3D printing, I think it's more important for them to understand the fundamentals of how to level the bed, how to detect whether or not the temperature is right by the way that the plastic's printing. Understand that when you're printing something small, it automatically slows down to compensate for that, and that affects the way that the plastic melts. So if you print a small test object and then wonder why a big print's not working, it's because you didn't print a big test object at the temperatures that you needed to print it at to melt all that plastic. Because melting a little bit of plastic and melting a lot of plastic are two very different things and happen at two different temperatures. So to find the actual true temperature that your plastic should print at, you need to actually be printing a large object with some small details on it. And potentially, if you're doing a very small model, you would actually have a completely different slicer profile and settings combinations than what you would use for a larger object. So it's really a case of learning a lot and being prepared to do a lot of research. Do not go into this thinking that it's going to be easy, because you might get a first test print off the printer and it works and it's great, but then after that you may have this problem, that problem, the other problem, or another problem. And this comes around in my sales pitch basically. You can choose to buy a printer from somebody that's just trying to sell you a printer, or you can buy a printer from somebody that's trying to change the world for a better place by putting manufacturing into the hands of local people, and is actively running a print shop where they print things for people on demand. I'm learning design. I would not say I'm the best designer in the world, but I'm learning it, and I've got a team of people that I can pass jobs on to that are too hard for me, or it's not going to be cost effective if I do them. So that's part of what I'm trying to do for my own business. And then on top of that, I'm looking at selling printers, selling parts, selling upgrade modifications, but only ones that I actually think are beneficial. I'm testing an all-metal hot end at the moment. I'm testing a few other bits and pieces at the moment. I've got them in my shop. I've put bugger all markup on things that I can't personally vouch for, and I'm actually going through my website over the next couple of weeks and clearing up and making it very obvious which products I have tested and actually fully endorse, and which products are ones that have basically just got in because they seem popular at the moment, and I'm just testing them out They're there at a very low markup from the AliExpress price. It's just enough basically to make it worth my while actually putting it on the shop. It's certainly not your typical drop shipping where they just put 200% markup on everything straight away and see which sucker falls for it and doesn't find it cheaper anywhere else. So that's not how I want to run my shop. And if you look up anything to do with how to do drop shipping, which is how the parts and printers that I'm doing work, you'll see that they've got a very different business model. It's read the reviews on AliExpress. If they look good, see how long they've been in business for. If they've been in business for a while, okay, right, I double the price and sell it to whichever sucker, clicks your link before they research it. I don't like that. I want to put enough markup on there to make it worth my time actually doing it and worth my time to be servicing the product afterwards for a considerable length of time before I would hit someone up to, if it's a year and a half into it, I'm not going to be giving you parts anymore, it's a 1 year warranty. I'll still give you advice, but if you want baby stepping every step of the way after a year of owning something, then you're going to have to pay for the package that I sell to anyone off the street, which is just support by the day, or support by the week, or support by the month. And obviously we've got appropriate rates, because if you're buying a monthly rate, you're not going to be bringing me every single day for all day, every day. I wouldn't assume you would have the time to do that, let alone would I. But it's the price reflects it, and it's I think is very fair, and after some feedback on that, because I haven't really been advertising that service yet. So I don't really know where to look when I'm making videos, so it's a bit awkward. Should I be looking directly at the camera? I don't know. So look, I'm here, I'm an honest dude. If you buy off me, I'm going to look after you, and that's the core of my store. I do my 3D printing at quite an affordable rate for people, so that it's accessible. I don't put a huge markup fee on. I should definitely be charging more for what I'm doing. Put it that way. I'm nuts. Where am I going with all this? I want to sell 3D printers, but that is my warning about 3D printers. There is a lot to it. Don't walk into it thinking that you're going to get your money back straight away just because it was hard. You've actually got to know how to identify problems and how to solve them, and be prepared to put in some legwork. I'm here to help you take most of that legwork out. If you've got a problem that I can easily answer, I'm going to give you the direct answer for it. If I think that there's a part that's faulty on your printer from what you described to me, and we do a bit of diagnosis together, I'm going to reply to you with a positive thing and give you an actual part for your printer and get it sent out to you without it being an argument or a hassle. All I want to do is identify that it's actually what the problem is. So we'll run a few tests. Don't take that as I'm trying to get out of it. I want to actually make sure that I'm providing a part that's going to solve the problem, and not that you go to all the trouble of putting it on and then finding out that you've still got the problem. So, we do some over the phone or over video chat diagnosis, and I work out what's wrong with your printer and we fix it. That's how I roll. So I've done that for so many random strangers that can vouch for me. You'll see them in comments on my Google reviews and on Facebook page views, and if you're out there and you're seeing this and you haven't reviewed me yet, jump on. I do what I can to help, basically, and at this point in my life I need to be making money doing that, or I'm essentially going to have to go into another job and won't have the time to be doing this. So I think that 3D printing is an amazing, revolutionary technology that is going to change the world for the better, and it's a real shame that it hasn't been around properly like it could have been since the 80s when it was invented. It's so sad that a machine like this has only just come down to a price point where you can just go, oh, the 3D printer, less than $300, what? Sold. That's where it's at now, and that's what you're looking at right here. So if you think you are that sort of person that can figure things out, or is at least prepared to give it a go and be happy to be learning new things, particularly if you're actually in a position where you need to be stretching your mind a bit, and you might be in a point in your life where you feel like you've learned everything you need to know. Maybe you need to get a 3D printer. I don't know. I think it's a good exercise for people trying to exercise their memory and their mind is going into the elderly years. It's helped a certain friend of mine that has got a cognitive it's a brain disorder, and it's essentially early onset dementia. And I think that it's one of the things that's keeping him positive about life, and he amazes me every day with what he's doing. He turns around in 1 minute and tells me that he's having trouble remembering some really basic things, and then he turns around and blows me away with stuff that he can do. So I think as far as keeping your mind active, and a great hobby if you're interested in that sort of stuff. And look, these are the sorts of cool things that you can make. These come straight off the internet. No need to learn how to design anything. Download them for free. There's so many different designs that you can download for free. On the internet. It's incredible what sorts of stuff that you can get. I've got not very many examples on me at the moment, really, but you'll see if you look in my other videos and whatnot. There's cool designs galore. There's a website called thingiverse.com. Check that website out as one example. There's My Mini Factory. There's a stack. I'm not going to go through a list of all. There's so many different ways that you can get free items to print. And then on top of that, you can pay designers to make things specifically for you. Hint, hint, I can get the job done. I can also get things 3D scanned as well, which is not cheap, but it's well and truly worth it when you get the item that you want. And quite often would be cheaper than designing it from scratch anyway. So, having that object there to scan can make it really easy. That's a whole other technology, and it's very amazing stuff as well. Being able to scan things and then use it in in gaming and in all sorts of bits and pieces. So it's really cool. But that's not my specialty. I am what I am. I actually come from an artist background. I'm a sculptor, I'm a drawer, I'm a painter, I'm a photographer. And I got into 3D printing because I'm also a massive fan of open source and technology, and I can see this as to be able to make 1 million of something and then use those in a large scale artwork, an installation work, or anything. It just boggles the mind, the potential of 3D printing. I want to make a cave out of T-Rex skulls. Righto, done. That's where's the filament. The potential of just popping an idea into your head and then doing it is there. And then actually doing it en masse. So for anyone that's creative, even if you don't even think that you're creative, you might just do a bit of scrapbooking, or you might not think that you're an artist, but you might have something that's creative that you do that could be replicated instead of you having to make each one by hand. Whether you like beading, whether you can make your own beads, you can customize them, make them amazing, whack them on your necklaces, either with the normal beads that you use, or start from scratch and do complete 3D printed beading. If you're into fishing, you've got all your lures and stuff that you can 3D print. Scrapbooking, stencils, that's just one of many things that you can, little 3D printed textures that you can use. The list goes on and on and on. So if you're into anything creative at all, and particularly if you're buying lots of small plastic items for what you do, whether it's an art, whether it's a job, whether it's whatever, if you're using lots of small pieces of plastic in your daily job, it may be cheaper to 3D print them than buy them, depending on what kind of markup they're putting on their plastic. Basically, some bits are the same polycarbonate or whatever. I'm not going to use polycarbonate. They're the same ABS plastic. In one product, it might weigh 5 grams, and that product's $30, and this one over here is 4 cents, and it weighs more. So depending on how your plastic object is actually priced, you may or may not save a massive amount of money by 3D printing it yourself. If it's a washer or a grommet or something, or you may well and truly be better off paying $25, $30 a kilo for a roll of plastic that's a kilogram than paying the same amount for a little box of washers or whatever's. So even if you're just using something really simple, there's a good chance that the 3D printing might be actually cheaper for you, and there's also a really good chance that it's not. You might be paying almost raw plastic prices for your product depending on how common it is. I use and it's not something you can easily 3D print, so don't get me wrong, but if you look at the hose, your outdoor garden hose drip systems, the roll of hose is cheap as chips. I can't remember how much it is, but I just know that it's really, really cheap for how much plastic you get for your money. And then you go into the section and look at the little tiny fittings that screw in every X amount of meters that you screw into it, and you look at the price and you look, well, it's the same. Oops, see, there we go, there's one of the things that can go wrong. This wasn't a honest video for nothing. So, it does certainly pay to be there. Now I'm just going to sit that there because there's actually less that can go wrong with it if I just put it there. I'll get my other spool holder. I much prefer the type of spool holders that go like that. I think they're much better. It's neat to have that in the box with the printer with it, but I still think, something that you can just, I think even having something screwed to that was just a post and peg style thing would be a better solution there, but hey, it's, it's not hard to make one of those with your 3D printer. So, where was it going? I've lost my train of thought. That distracted me. Doesn't really matter. I think I've said enough. I'm Sam Taylor. This is 3D Printing Revolution. Jump on board and get involved. Can't see any reason, if you've made it through this video, why you wouldn't want to do that. So give me a ring, give me an email, all that jazz, by looking in the contact us form on the thing, and you can look me up on Google Maps, 3D Printing Revolution in Wanji. So that's probably the easiest way to get my contacts, instead of me mucking around sticking a link in the video description and all that. I probably won't bother doing that because I'm struggling, to be honest, I'm struggling to get my content out and run my business, and it is difficult to try and make good quality content for you guys to consume. Maybe I'll just leave all these little bloopers in and happy days, I don't know, do I edit my videos and cut out all this good stuff, or do I, for the sake of it being a bit easier to follow? I don't know, you tell me guys, tell me what you reckon. Would you rather it candid like this, or would you rather it, prim and proper and edited and nice jump cuts from one scene to the next and all that stuff? Let me know. I personally would rather just smash it out and get the content out there, but I know that there's a lot of rubbish that people probably just don't need to hear in the middle. Me just like, if you cut out all the bits where I say and you could probably shorten the video by a good 5 to 10 minutes. So, I don't know. Let me know what you think in the comment section of whatever video I end up putting this up on, and probably YouTube, Facebook, whatever. Maybe I'll just let it sit on my hard drives and never use it. I don't know. Yeah, alright. I'm not very good at wrapping things up, so I'm just going to grab the phone like this and then press the stop button.